محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Greetings and felicitations on this very auspicious occasion on which we celebrate the prosperous wiladat of our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Wiladat of our second Imam takes place in the middle of the month of Ramadan, 15th in the third year after Hijrah of Prophet of Islam. And he's the first fruit of Fatima and Ali, and the first grandson of Prophet Muhammad, and his arrival was a reply to those who posed the labels of Abtar to our Prophet. And when our Prophet lost his sons in their infancy, and there were people who were mocking him that his legacy will, die and will not continue because he doesn't have any male children. And so the response was in the form of the wiladat of our second Imam. In the third year after Hijrah on 15th, when his wiladat takes place, it is a response that no, inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar, that indeed it is your enemy who is abtar. Prophet, your legacy, your progeny will continue. So when Imam was born, Prophet recited the adhan and the iqama, and then he also on the seventh day performed the qurbani, and that laid the foundation of aqiqah, which is being sunnat mu'akkada. So the hadith says aqqa Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi anil Hasan biyadihi wa qala bismillah aqiqatun anil Hasan. Prophet performed the aqiqah and he sacrificed the animal with his own hands, and then he read this bismillah aqiqatun anil Hasan, that in the name of Allah this is the aqiqah on behalf of Hasan. Wa qala Allahumma, and then he held the animal which was sacrificed and he said, "Oh Allah, azmuha bi'azmihi," the bones of this animal for the bones of Hasan, wa lahmuha bilahmihi, the meat and the flesh for his meat and flesh, wa damuha bidamihi, and the blood for the blood of Hasan, wa sha'ruha bisha'rihi, and the hair for the hair of Hasan. Allahumma ja'alha wiqa'an li Muhammadin wa alihi. Allah, make this to be a protection for Muhammad and the progeny of Muhammad. From that moment, this became the sunnat of Rasulullah, and he was the first son, first child upon whom the sunnat of aqiqah was performed. Prophet considered him to be his own son, and that is the reason which we find the proofs of in numerous narrations and the traditions of our Prophet. When he would refer to Imam Hassan when he was born, he said, "Hat ibni," give me my son, give me my son. And so he referred to him on numerous occasions when Prophet was sitting in the masjid and Anas sees that a child is constantly climbing on the back of Rasulullah. He thought that this child was disturbing the Prophet. He wanted to stop and take him away. Prophet responded, "Ya Anas, da'a ibni wa tamarata fu'adi, inna man adha hasanan faqad adhani." He said, "Oh Anas, stay away. Don't need to intervene. Stay away from my son Hassan. And the one who is the tamarata fu'adi, the fruit of my heart," he said, "whoever harms him, man adha hasanan faqad adhani, indeed annoys me and harms me." And that is the reason when we find how he considered them not only to be his sons, but that was the prophecy that they were his sons. And that is the reason Prophet would say that ibnai hadani imaman qama aw qaida, that these two sons of mine, that means Hassan and Hussein, are my children, whether they're standing or they're sitting down. That again was a prophecy the Prophet was speaking of, that one of them will stand up and rise and will do jihad and will be martyred in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the other one will sit down for the sake of the ummah, and that would be in the form of making this peace treaty with Amir Sham. So we see that Prophet is giving from ahead of time this prophecy that what these two will go ahead and do. So nobody should question if Imam Hassan performs the peace or he goes through with the treaty. And on the other hand, we see that Imam Hussein stands up and rises for the occasion. So this is something which was already announced from our Prophet. We see that he said, Inna ibni hadha sayyid. Prophet said that this, my son, is sayyid. The one, if you and I were to call someone to be a master, sayyid means master, a leader. If you and I were to call someone a leader or a master, it would be one thing. But when someone who himself is Sayyidul Mursaleen calls someone Sayyid, just imagine the status of that person. Prophet is Sayyidul Mursaleen, and he is Sayyidul Anbiya, and then he calls Imam Hassan to be Sayyid. Just imagine the status of Imam Hassan at that particular moment. Imam Hussein is the waris of all of the Anbiya. We recite in Ziyarat Warith, Assalamu alayka ya warith Adama, Safatillah Nuhin, Nabiyillah Ibrahim, Ibrahim, Khalilillah, Musa, Kalimillah, Isa, Ruhillah. We recite Muhammad, Habibillah. We recite that Hussein is the warith of all of the Anbiya. What does that mean? That means all of the Anbiya are mushtaq of Didar of Hussein ibn Ali. They want to be able to do the ziyarat of Hussein ibn Ali. So he's the inheritor, inherits from all of the Anbiya. When Hussein is the inheritor of all of the Anbiya, what is the method of Hussein? Hussein calls Hassan to be his imam. Hussein goes for the ziyarat of Hassan ibn Ali after the wafat of Imam Hassan, after the shahadat of Imam Hassan. So the one who is the inheritor of all of the Anbiya, his method is to go ahead and perform the ziyarat of Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And that's the reason Prophet said, Ya bunayya, man zarani hayyan, aw mayyitan, aw zara abaka, aw zara akhaka, aw zaraka kana haqqan alayya an azurahu yawm al-qiyamah wa ukhallisahu min dunubih. He said, O my children, O my son, Ya bunayya, man zarani, whoever visits me while I'm alive or even after my death, or visits your father, or visits your brother, or visits you, it is haqq upon me on the day of judgment that I must visit them, and I will remove them, or remove all of the sins from them. Ukhallisahu min dunube. Remove all the sins from them. So that is the benefit of the ziyarah. You say, well, how do you attain this benefit from merely visiting someone? You go and visit the shrine of Hussein ibn Ali, and you will understand the spirituality that you gain out of it, how it keeps you away from sinning. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi and Yahya ibn Ya'mur, he had apprehended Yahya ibn Ya'mur and was questioned, why do you constantly call Hassan and Hussein alayhi to be sons of Rasulullah, while they were the grandsons of Rasulullah? Why do you call them Yabna Rasulullah, or the son of Rasulullah, while they were clearly his grandson? Nobody can deny that truth. He replied, according to the Nas and the text of Quran. We're not calling them to be sons because of our own whims. No, because of the Nas and the text of the Holy Quran. Then he recited the following verses. He said, وَنُوحًا حَدَيْنَا مِن قَبْلُ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ وَأَيُّوبَ وَيُوسُفَ وَمُوسَى وَهَارُونَ وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ وَزَكَرِيَّا وَيَحْيَا وَإِيسَى وَإِلْيَاسَ. He said all of these are considered to be from the dhurriyat of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. So you have Dawood, Sulaiman, Ayyub, Yusuf, Musa, Harun, as well as Zakaria, Yahya, Isa, and Ilyas. All of them are being considered what? Sons of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, according to this ayat of Quran. He said, my question is, who was the father of Hazrat Isa? Who was the mother of Hazrat Isa? He said, Maryam. He said, who was the father of Hazrat Isa? Well, they didn't have any father. But yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls him to be what? Son of Hazrat Nuh, with all the lineage connection that he has. While over here, Fatima Zahra is the only connection between Rasulullah and Imam Hassan and Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat bi Muhammad wa alam. Hajjaj said, release him. He has a point. He has the proof of what we're looking for. And then he provided the other ayat from Surah Al Imran, which is the ayat famous for, ayat of Mubahala. Wa abna'ana wa abna'akum. He said, we all know the history behind it. That who did Prophet take to be the misdaq of his abna? He said he took none other than Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. While the fact is that his son from Maria Qibtiyya, Ibrahim, was alive. His son from Maria Qibtiyya was a year and a half old at that time of the event of Mubahala. Yet Prophet took who? He took Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein just to prove that he may be my biological son, but these are the inheritors of Rasulullah and the legacy of Rasulullah, which will continue as far as the imamat and the ismat and taharat is concerned. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In the beginning of the discussion, I recited this very famous verse from Surah Ahzab, verse number 33, which is not the entire verse, by the way. It is not from the beginning, it's in the middle. إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. That indeed Allah desires to repel all impurity from you, O people of the household, and purify you with the thorough purification. This is one of the ayat which is talking about Imam Hassan and Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. There are many ayat which refer to ma'asumin indirectly without mentioning their names. And this is one of those ayat. No doubt that the word Ahlul Bayt is referring to who? Referring to those who were under the cloak, under the kisa. That event which took place, which we recite in the form of hadith-e-kisa. And whoever was under that falls under the category of Ahlul Bayt. While there are other proofs and other debates about the word Ahlul Bayt referring towards the wives and all that, this is out of our discussion, although many have proven otherwise, because Salma, one of the most important wives of Rasulullah after Hazrat Khadija, most honorable after Hazrat Khadija, she was there. She asked to be part of this cloak, and Rasulullah said, Anti alal khair, you are upon good, but you cannot be part of this kisa. This is something which is the desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the ayat starts by saying what? Innama yuridullah. So when we look at this ayah, you heard this ayah many times. Let's analyze this ayah. Let's look at this ayah from various perspectives. For example, the event of kisa takes place when Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein are old enough that they walk into the house and they go inside the kisa, right? So you all know the story. That first grandson comes, he speaks to his mother, he says, I smell the fragrance of my grandfather. She said, yes, he's resting in the room. So he goes, so that means he's old enough to know all of this stuff, and he walks over there. Then Imam Hussein comes, who's even younger, but still he's old enough to walk and speak and address in the fact that, I smell the fragrance of my grandfather. And then he goes and he joins them as well. We see that both of them are old enough that they're able to walk into the kisa. Although this event of Hadith Kisa took place in the 6th year after Hijrah. So if Imam Hassan was born in the 3rd year, and Imam Hussein 6 months later, for example in the 4th year, they were respectively 2 and 3 years old. So a 2 and a 3-year-old child would be able to walk into kisa. Now I don't know about ordinary children, they're able to speak or not, but these are imam, obviously. Nonetheless, they are respectively 2 or 3 years old. Doubt which is created is, that means that they were not pure prior to the revelation of this ayah. Because the ayah says what? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. That Allah intends to purify you, O Ahl Bayt. That means prior to the revelation of this ayah, they were, na'udhu billah, what? Not pure. Eid is coming up, inshallah, in the next couple of weeks. And there's this qunut that is recited, right? Allahumma ahlal kibriyai wal azama wa ahlal judi wal jabarut wa ahlal afwi wal rahma wa ahlal taqwa wal maghfira as'aluka bihaqqi hadha al-yawm alladhi ja'altahu lil muslimina 'ida ولمحمد صلى الله عليه وآله ذخرا وشرفا وكرامة ومزيدا أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد وأن تدخلني في كل خير أدخلت فيه محمدا وآل محمد. that enter me into all of that good which you entered Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, وَأَن تُخْرِجَنِي مِن كُلِّ سُوءٍ أَخْرَجْتَ مِنْهُ مُحَمَّدًا وَآلَ مُحَمَّد, and keep me away from, or take me out of, all of the su and evil which you kept away or took Al Muhammad out of it. So well, that means what? That means there was a time that they were upon evil, na'udhu billah, or there was a time they were not upon goodness. So Allah removed the impurity, and thus they became, pure for that matter. This is the doubt which is created. Failing to understand the fact that amongst this Ahlul Bayt, where we might be debating over the children of Rasulullah and the wives of Rasulullah, they forget that Rasul is also part of this Ahlul Bayt. Rasul is also part of this ayat of Quran, because he was also underneath this cloak. So when you are raising an issue that they may not have been pure prior to the revelation of this ayah, that means you're also associating the fact that Prophet, na'udhu, may not have been pure prior to the revelation. Second, Prophet, if this ayat was revealed in the 6th year after Hijrah, when is Prophet's demise? 11th. So Prophet lived for another 4 and 5 years. That means if Prophet became pure in the 6th year after Hijrah alongside with Ahlul Bayt, Prophet only remained pure for 4 and 5 years. While Hassan and Hussein lived for another 40 and 50 years. That means they were pure for a longer period than Rasulullah. Yuridullah shows it's Allah's desire. Has to be strong. No weakness ever existing. Sifat of Allah are of two types. Some are called Ain and Dhat. Those are the part of the Dhat and the essence of Allah, like the ilm, His knowledge, His irada, His intention, and His hayat. And some are called Sifat al-Fi'l. His actions reflect on His actions, like the Creator, the one who's forgiving. All of these have to do with something else, because His fail, His action is only implemented when certain things exist. He is not Razik until there's Marzuq. He is not Khaliq until He creates. So we don't associate the sifat of Khaliq to Allah until He created. We don't associate the sifat of Razzaq and Razik to Allah until He provides sustenance. Or forgiving, right? Until He forgives. But the ilm and the irada and the hayat of Allah is something which is beyond that. In fact, it is through the ilm and the hayat and the irada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of the other sifat emerge. So from this irada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the intention over here, this is something which is the dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one had to be existing in order for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go ahead and purify. That also reflects on the purification of Ahlul Bayt in this reference. Now even if you go and take your proposition that they were pure afterwards, now one shouldn't challenge the Imam Hassan or Imam Hussein for their actions. Because if they became pure according to these ayat of Quran, that means what? It's the irada of Allah to make them pure. So if they do something, or if they pass a judgment, or if they say something, that is what? It is hujjat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you should question someone, you should question Allah. So if Imam Hassan makes a peace treaty, that is because it's the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the irada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Imam Hussein stands up and rises and performs this jihad, it is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't question Hassan and Hussein alayhim as-salatu was-salam. You would be questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, when we look at this ayat, innama yuridullah, Prophet announces the nubuwwat, when he's 40 years old. This ayat was revealed 5 years prior to the wafat of Rasulullah. So if you think that they became pure after the revelation of this ayah, that means Prophet announced his nubuwwat before the revelation of this ayah, because no ayat was revealed prior to Iqra. So that means Prophet announced his nubuwwat prior to the revelation, before this verse was revealed. But he announced the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen after this ayat was revealed. In the 10th year after Hijrah, coming back from Hijjatul Wada, that Rasulullah says, Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla. So if you question anything, you should question the nubuwwat, na'udhu billah, of Rasulullah. You should not be questioning the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen because it was recited, it was performed after this ayat was revealed. Salawat Biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We should not be questioning the nubuwwat. I'm just making an argument that if that's the case, that you're saying that whatever they did was after the purification, then that act was done prior to the purification of the ayat of the purification, and this action was done afterwards. When we look at Imam Hassan and we look at his lifestyle, one thing which is very substantial, which we see through the lives of other ma'asumeen, is the worship and the fear that Imam displayed when he would stand up for salat. When we look at our salat, when we get up, time that we spend in performing our salat, and the energy that we have in it, the enthusiasm that we have in it, and leading up to salat, our intentions, all of that combined, it's the product which we produce in the form of this, standing up and sitting down and bowing and prostrating. You'd merely call it to be standing up and sitting down. You won't name it to be salat. Because where is this salat? What kind of salat is this? Where there's no khudu in it, where there's no khushu' in it, when we're not, showing this humility and humbleness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When our heart is not weeping, when our heart is not in the halat of khudu and khushu' and fearful of whom we are standing in front of. Why is all of that? Because our salat, we don't pay that much attention towards it. When you look at ma'asumeen, and especially when you look at the salat of Imam Hassan and Mujtaba, you will understand what I'm referring to. We see that one of the purposes of the creation of mankind is what? Is ibadat. Surah Dhariyat talks about it, right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Mankind and jinn had not been created except that they may worship me. So the ibadat and ubudiyat and servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a maqam in its own. And that is the reason when Allah refers to certain anbiya in Quran, it's because of their ubudiyat. When He talks about Hazrat Khidr, does not mention his name, calls him min ibadina, amongst our servants. When He talks about Hazrat Nuh, refers to him as the sifat of abd, abdan shakura, that he was a grateful servant of ours. Hazrat Nuh, ulul azm nabi. And when He refers to our Prophet, every time when we perform the salat, when we're reciting the tashahud, we say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu. Then we say what? Rasul. That means what? The risalat is very important. But ubudiyat of Muhammad Rasulullah is more important. Him being servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is superior to him being the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why ubudiyat has taken or superseded the risalat of Rasulullah. And that is why when Amirul Mu'mineen said these words, Ilahi kafa bi izzan an akuna laka abdan. Ilahi, it is enough for my izzat and my honor that I'm what? I'm your abd. Wa kafa bi fakhran an takuna li rabban. And it is enough for my pride that you are my Rabb. Anta kama uhib. Faj'alni kama tuhib, anta kama uhib. Oh Allah, you are how I want you to be. Make me how you want me to be. And that is a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Servitude, ibudiyat is something. When we look at Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, إِذَا أَرَادَتْ عِزًّا بِلَا عَشِيرًا وَهَيْبَةً بِلَا سُلْطَانٍ فَخُرُجْ مِنْ ذُلِّ مَعْصِيَةِ اللَّهِ إِلَىٰ عِزِّ طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ. Whoever, whenever you want honor without companion, respect without kingdom, come out of the disobedience of Allah and turn to the honor of His obedience. The honor of being the obedient of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Hassan had all that in all of the aspects of his life. Even when he's performing the wudu, his face complexion would change. People will ask, oh Imam, you're doing wudu, what's wrong with you? Why do we see that you're pale and your face complexion has changed? Imam will respond by saying, حَقٌّ عَلَى كُلِّ مَنْ وَقَفَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَبِّ الْعَرْشِ أَنْ يَصْفَرَّ لَوْنَهُ وَتَرْتَعِدَ مَفَاصِلَهُ. It is haqq, it is the right of the one in front of whom we are about to stand in worship, that when we are doing the wudu, that our face complexion should change. It would become pale, that our mafasil, our body parts should start tarta'id, start shaking, shivering, because we are about to embark and to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when he would be entering the masjid, he would raise his hands towards the sky and say, Ilahi, dayfuka bibabik. Oh my Lord, your guest is at your door. Ya Muhsin, qad ataka al-musi. Oh, the one who is kind. Indeed, a musi, someone who has committed a sin, has come to you. فَتَجَاوَزْ عَنْ قَبِيهِ مَا عِنْدِي. Therefore, overlook and forgive all of those things that I have committed. بِجَمِيلِ مَا عِنْدَكَ. With all the beauty that you possess. These are the words of Imam Hasan al-Mushtaba. And ibadat and the food has a very strong relationship. A lot of time when you say that, we're unable to bring that ubudi aspect into our ibadat. We're unable to feel the beauty of ibadat. We're standing and performing the salat, but the chashini, just gonna get there, taste of, beauty of this ibadat is lacking. Well, where do we get that from? It has to do with what we consume as well. Because the consumption of the food has a direct connection as far as our emotions, senses, and especially when we are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a famous hadith which I have quoted on numerous occasions. If you've heard before, I ask for forgiveness, but it's a reminder especially for the children. And there's a story attached with it. That Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, Ajabun liman yatafakkaru fi ma'kulihi la kayfa la yatafakkaru fi ma'qulihi. I'm surprised at the person who's so conscious about what he consumes, but pays no heed. كَيْفَ لَا يَتَفَكَّرُ فِي مَعْقُولِهِ. What he puts into his mind and his intellect. فَيُجَنِّبُ بَطْنَهُ مَا يُؤْذِي. He refrains and keeps his button, his belly, from that which could be harmful. وَيُوْدِعُ صَدْرَهُ مَا يُرْضِي. But he doesn't do the same thing when it comes to his sadr, his chest, his heart, his intellect. What is Imam trying to tell us over here? Imam is saying that we eat whatever we want, although there are effects of what we eat. So we try to keep our food what? Halal. To whatever extent we can, it is possible for us. So at least that much we do. But it's still, even if food is halal, you refrain from eating something which could be harmful to you. For example, we're all about to, break the fast. Someone brings your favorite dish in front of you. Let's say if it happens to be biryani or nihari. And they place it and you're ready to break your fast. You're about to eat. You've been hungry for 17 hours. But then they say, well, by the way, someone spilled something in it. Or it may be poisoned, I don't know. I was like, I'm not eating it. I may be hungry for 17 hours, but I'm not going to put this in my body. Could be killer. Or if something which is unknown has been put in it, which we don't know if it's halal or not. Well, the meat may not be halal. So you can go ahead and eat, but the meat may not be halal. I'm not eating this. I may have been hungry for 18 hours, but I'm not going to touch food which is what? Haram. So it may be your favorite dish. You may be hungry for 18 hours, but the fact that it could have harm on your body, you're going to refrain from it. Imam said how much importance we pay towards refraining from that which could be possibly harmful to our bodies. But we don't pay attention to that which could be harmful towards our minds. A story that I've recited or mentioned before, that children, they were 13 years old and they wanted to see a movie. Their father said, no, you can't watch that movie because the contents in that movie are not appropriate for your age. He said, but the movie is PG-13 and we're 13. So we can watch that movie. So yeah, it's PG-13 for the standard and the criteria of this life, this society. But not according to the criteria and the standards of Islam. He said, but all of our friends are watching it. Oh yeah, that's their prerogative. As long as I'm here, I'm not going to let you watch this because it has some stuff which is not appropriate for you. Yeah, we know what you're talking about, but very little. It's a 2-hour movie. Maybe 2 minutes worth of it is questionable. So father said, no, you can't have it. You can't watch it. They couldn't do anything. They were bummed. They were, bummed out of it. They just went to their room. Father started baking for them some brownies. They literally loved the brownies. He baked the brownies and he brought them up. They said, well, look, father may be feeling sad for what he had done to us. He brings the brownies and he said, here, I baked your favorite brownies. But before you eat it, there's a disclaimer. I put very little, minute amount of something which I picked up from the backyard. He's like, what did you put in this? Of course, your father, you're not going to do anything which is haram or anything. He said, yeah, something. There's a dog and a cat outside, right? So I picked up something and I put it in the ingredients of the brownie. What is it? Well, it's the, dog poop, for example, or something of that sort. But it's very minute. You won't even see it. It's probably 1%. They're like, no way we're going to eat this thing. It's got something which is nasty. He said, you're not willing to eat which has 1% nastiness in it. But you're willing to watch that movie which will have so much corruption that could cause corruption to you. Thus reminding of this hadith of Imam. He says, عَجَبٌ لِمَنْ يَتَفَكَّرُ فِي مَأْكُولِهِ. I'm surprised, Imam said. These are the words of Imam. That a person who consumes, who's very careful what he eats, and you should be careful what you eat. كَيْفَ لَا يَتَفَكَّرُ فِي مَعْقُولِهِ. How does the same person not take the same heed what he puts into his or her head? Salawat bi Muhammad wa alayhi wa sallam. Very quickly, in the next 7-8 minutes that I have, I think namaz time is increasing. There's a discussion, or there's something which has been bothering, and now we live in this social media life where things, if you did not even know, it'll come to you knocking on your phone and your doorstep, and not just from one source, it'll come from numerous sources. So this concept of nuzul and the zuhur of imams, that when the birth of Imam Hassan, was being celebrated, or you were probably getting messages from left and right that Mubarak and Mubarak and Mubarak, which is good. You should greet others. But amongst them, you will find messages will say, well, Zuhure Imam Hassan Mubarak, for example. Or Nuzule Imam Hassan Mubarak, for example. Well, when did this Nuzul and Zuhur come into play? Because all we knew is Zuhur of our Imam of our time. Because he's not Zahir. He's not in front of us. He's apparently hiding in occultation. So when he comes out of the veils, then he will do what? Zuhur. Right? Or, for example, I don't know what the concept of Hazrat Isa is, that there will be a nuzul of Hazrat Isa. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He lifted him from that slave. It was not that he was killed, according to the Quran, that Allah said, وَمَا قُتِلُوا وَمَا صَلَبُوا, right? The ayah says he was not crucified, nor was he killed. Rather, someone who looked like him. So it may be the nuzul of Hazrat Isa because he's alive. And it will be the zuhur of Imam of our time because he's alive. And he's here in this world, and apparently we can't see him. But when you talk about other masumeen, how can you say nuzul and zuhur? Because when they had their births and they had their shahadat. So how can you go ahead and associate the word nuzul and zuhur to it? These days, there's a linguistic discussion amongst the followers of Ahlul-Bayt. Some say or believe that masumeen were not born. Rather, they appear or descend. Hence, the terminologies zuhur and nuzul. They say that birth is for ordinary people like you and I. Masumeen are extraordinary, and they cannot have the similar birth or whatnot. So, if they are correct in their belief or not, this is something which we need to find out. First thing we need to find out is what is meant by these people when they say zuhur and nuzul. I explained that briefly about our Imam being in the hiding and he will do dhuhur, or maybe for example Hazrat Isa's example. They claim that Masumeen cannot be born. They were neither in the sulb of their ancestors, nor have they been inside the wombs of their mothers. They believe that Masumeen descend directly from the heavens to the earth, and they don't require physical birth. There's no proof to their claim, obviously. If anything, there's so many proofs against their claim, and we just mentioned that when Imam Hassan was born, Rasulullah said, Hat ibni, give me my son. He was born, and it was this day which we celebrate his birth, which is 15th of Ramadan, 3rd year after Hijrah. So they don't have any claim. There's no proof of this through the hadith, let alone any ayat of Quran. One verse of Quran where there's a discussion about nuzul of a nur, they consider it to be referring towards the nuzul of Masumeen. While Mufassirin have clearly mentioned, no, it's not referring towards the nuzul of Masumeen. It's referring towards something which came alongside with Rasulullah, and that is Quran. So according to the authentic tafsir, the ayat which says, فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, believe in Allah and in His Prophet, وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا, and that nur, that illumination which we descend with Allah, with Rasulullah, that nur. So right away they say, well, this nur is referring to who? This nur is referring to Ma'asumeen. This nur is not referring towards this Quran. While the Mufassirin mention that it would only be Quran, and if anything, the Ma'asumeen are what? They are spoken Quran. Salawat Beji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So some of the faults with this belief, I'll run it by very quickly, I have not much time. When you deny the birth, then you must also deny the Shahada. Because if they weren't born, and then they must not have been killed or martyred either. According to tafsir of Surah, verse 15 from Surah Ahqaf, there's reference to being made to Prophet Yahya in Imam Hussein. And the bearing of him and the weaning of him was 30 months. Bearing and weaning, referring towards mothers who bore the child and then they fed them. If one believes that imams were never born, then this will have to be denied. This ayat must be denied as well. They will have to deny the ziyarat al-warith. Since we recite in the following ziyarah, ashhadu annaka kunta nuran fil aslab al-shamikha wal arham al-mutahara, that you are nur. Yes, you are nur, no doubt about you being nur. But in what? In the aslab, in the arham, in the sulb, as well as in the wombs. We must also deny all of these other claims, or all of these other, for example, in Dua Nutbah, Dua of Rajab, Ziyarat Ali Yasin, we read the following verse, أَوْلَدَتْهُ مَوْلُودَيْن, Mawlud, which all denote the fact that Masumeen went through natural birth. They must also deny the Dua of Rajab, which is associated with Masum, where we recite, Allahumma inni as'aluka bimawludayn fi Rajab. Oh Allah, I ask you for the two mawluds, the two people who were born in the month of Rajab. Who was born in the month of Rajab? Muhammad ibn Ali al-Thani wa ibnihi Ali ibn Muhammad al-Muntajab. Salawat Beji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The dua which is recited on 3rd of Shaban, بِحَقِّ الْمَوْلُودِ فِي هَذَا الْيَوْمِ. Oh Allah, we ask you for the mawlud who was born on this day. The dua which is recited on 15th of Shaban, بِحَقِّ مَوْلُودِهَا. Oh Allah, we're making dua on behalf of Bihaqqi, the one who was born on 15th of Shaban, which is Imam over time. All of those ziyarat and dua which contain our beliefs are filled with the curses of the killers of Ma'asumeen, they must all be denied, since none of the Imams are born, therefore they weren't martyred. So who are we sending the lanat? If Imams did zuhur, they did nuzul, and therefore they were not murdered, they were not killed, they were not martyred. When Imams weren't born, then where did the Sadat come from? These Sadat also did the zuhur as well? So all the Sadat that we see in the world, they also did nuzul and they also did zuhur? No, that is again something wrong. All those narrations about Amir al-Mu'mineen, Bibi Fatima, Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam, salawat bi Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Ali spoke to his mother while he was in the womb. Bibi Fatima spoke to Bibi Khadija, we talked about it, from the womb of the mother. As well as Imam Mahdi spoke to his mother Narjis Khatun, while she was pregnant with him. They all spoke. So where's this nuzul and zuhur coming from? These people must also repudiate Eid Miladun Nabi. That talks about what? The Milad, which is celebrated amongst Shias and Sunnis and all of these Muslimin as far as the wiladat of Rasulullah. These people, there's an attribute of Amirul Mu'mineen which no one else. What is it? Mawlude Kaaba. What does that mean? That means he was Mawlud. That means Wulida fil Kaaba. That means he was born inside the Kaaba. So you must deny the wiladat of Amirul Mu'mineen because he did nuzul, or for example, he did zuhur. And there are many other such examples. So if we consider the wiladat to be zuhur, then the biggest loss is in the form of losing the significance of Imam of our time, who is in the hiding, and he will eventually do the zuhur. So the zuhur is only associated with Imam of our time because he was already born. Otherwise, the Sunnis have the belief that they also believe in Mahdi, but they believe that Mahdi will be born one day. We believe in the Mahdi who's already born in the year 255, who went into the occultation in 329, and he will one day go ahead and do this zuhur. All the Shia scholars believe that the wiladat of Imam took place on 15th of Shaban, and Imam will do this zuhur. There's an entire section in Al-Kafi, volume 2, under the name of what? Babu Mawalid al-Aimma, section of the birth of Imams. This shows that throughout the history, the words birth have been used for Imams, and only the terminology of nuzul and zuhur is being enforced and implemented today for various reasons which are obvious to understand. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq and ability to stay away from these fitnas, to stay away from these conspiracy which are brought up in madhab al-tashayyu. And Allah, on this auspicious occasion when we are marking the wiladat of our second Imam, all those people who are sitting here, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfill their hajat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep all of the sorrows and sadness away from them. Oh Allah, hasten the zuhur of our awaited Imam. Make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhir da'wana. And alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli. Please recite the Surah Fatiha for the marhumeen of the sponsors tonight. Surah Fatiha.
Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah. Ashhadu anna Aliyan hujjatullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala al-falah. حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد ذلك الله ربي اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير وهذا شهر عزمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور وهو شهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من ألف شهر فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك من علي بفكاك رخبتي من النار في من تمن علي وأدخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله صلاة العشاء الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. ذلك الله ربي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقوم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم اغن كل فقير. اللهم اشبع كل جائع. اللهم اكسر كل عريان، اللهم اغسل دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريم، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم صد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اغض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير.